Good evening, I'm Dan Rather, and tonight on CBS News, 7 Saudi soldiers sodomized several of Saddam's southern settlement squatters. I'm Dan Rather.
This video was made possible by my patrons. Just Another ANCAP, Christian DeLorme, Joshua Bartlett, Scorch88, and all other patrons at the additional tiers. Thank you so much to all of you. Hello everyone, this is My Two Cents. Remember Dan Rather, the former CBS News anchor who was forced to resign in 2004 after he reported a bogus news story about George W. Bush based on forged documents? Well, he's back, and now he's providing commentary for the Young Turks. Rather seems to think that the March for Our Lives is showing that young people in this country are waking up. They've realized that if you don't support gun control, you're the devil incarnate, and they intend to see to it that you are done away with once they reach the age that they can head to the polls. The problem is that all the March for Lives did is demonstrate that the left will continue to manipulate facts into emotional rhetoric towards the ultimate goal of disarming law-abiding citizens everywhere and ensuring that a totalitarian state has a monopoly on force. They use rhetoric like, "We don't want to take your guns, we just want to ban assault weapons," all the while being unaware that assault weapon is a made-up term that ends up referring to nothing more than a gun's cosmetics. This is a slow burn in which they will fight for steadily increasing gun control measures until they manage to achieve an all-out gun ban. The March for Our Lives really ought to be called the March to Our Enslavement. Let's get into it.
The March for Our Lives by young people asking for common sense efforts to reduce gun violence was impressive. That's the reason the NRA is counterattacking so vigorously and nastily.
Well, it certainly was impressive. Impressive how many young people are pushing for so-called common sense gun control, all the while ignoring the fact that a little common sense on behalf of the Broward County Sheriff's Department could have stopped this shooting from happening long before it did. But let's not worry about that. The problem is guns, not the people who illegally bring them into gun-free zones with the intent of murder, or the incompetent law enforcement personnel who are supposed to stop them from committing their carnage. By the way, how is it nasty for the NRA to point out that several days ago in Maryland, an armed school resource officer confronted a would-be school shooter and prevented him from taking any lives? Maybe if the Broward County Sheriff's deputy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas had done the same, the 17 students killed would still be alive.
Because at those marches on Saturday, the future spoke. Cynicism and fear took a backseat to optimism and hope.
Optimism and hope for what? Hope that law-abiding citizens will be ripped of their right to self-defense and have to rely on law enforcement to protect them? How can a person not be cynical about this, given how the Parkland shooting played out?
Those who have long been told that their voices didn't matter, who have been ignored, explained away, gaslighted, forgotten, handled with sanctimonious neglect, well, they raised their voices in a unified chorus of many accents and from many perspectives, but all with the same message: ignore us at your peril.
Were they all given a voice? What about Kyle Kashev, a Parkland survivor who thinks that gun control isn't the answer? He noted on CNN that he was not invited to share his perspective at the March for Our Lives. He also stated that there is a silent minority in Parkland who agree with him. Why aren't these students being allowed to share their perspective?
It was a spark set forth by the long simmering embers of activism, but ultimately the success will hinge on one vital fact. Will those who marched this weekend and all who cheered them on march to the polls in November and beyond? This is not at base about party politics. It's about a generational change. This is about the awakening of a movement that is precipitating around gun violence. But one senses it is even more seismic. It is about those who say that their vision of a more just, inclusive, and safer America is not the priority of those in power.
Translation: if you don't support gun control, you don't care about the safety of America. Wrong. Typical leftist propaganda. If you don't agree with us, then you're a horrible person who wants to murder children. No, rather, no one on either side of this debate doesn't support a safer America. What we disagree about is what will in fact make America safer. But you won't hear any of that from the left. Just listen to David Hogg's speech at the March for Life. Was there any substantial discussion of how precisely the measures being proposed will stop future gun violence? Or was it just a screed about how, if you don't support gun control, you're evil?
And this mass of restive humanity says, enough. We will be silent no longer.
No one was forcing you to be silent before. Last I checked, leftists have always supported more gun control.
The day before the march, I was inspired and moved to speak with 5 of the student leaders from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Their energy and commitment was palpable, and it was satisfying to see and hear. Their passion runs deep, and I recognize it as that special brand of passion that can only be born from a searing personal and emotional experience.
I'm not denying that those students have had a powerful and emotional experience. Heck, I'm not even arguing that they don't have a right to speak out. But what does need to be pointed out is that just because you've had a powerful emotional experience doesn't mean you understand the underlying issues on which you're speaking. We're about to see in the clip that he'll show of one of these students that despite being passionate and emboldened, many of them have no idea what they're talking about.
Entrenched interests like the NRA, who seek to blunt these students' message, endeavor to paint them as pawns of adult liberal activists. That's a charge that is insulting and false.
Really? What evidence do you have, Dan? Even the radically leftist PolitiFact admitted that the Brady campaign, Everytown, Sandy Hook Promise, these are all groups that promoted the march. Along with them, other liberal organizations like Move On and Planned Parenthood. So while it may be true that many students who participated in this march did so of their own accord, it is absolutely true that this march would not have happened without the help of known partisan organizations with a leftist agenda. And of course, the help of mainstream media outlets who gave the march non-stop media coverage. Strange, isn't it, that even larger rallies, such as the March for Life pro-life gathering that takes place every year in D.C., don't receive nearly as much coverage.
I noticed how bipartisan this group was. Some are Republican. Some have parents that lean that way. Some come from homes that have guns. They are not the caricatures the NRA would have you see.
What does bipartisan even mean anymore? Sure, some so-called Republicans support more gun control, but the Republican Party as an institution can barely qualify as conservative. I don't care if some of these students say they are of one political party or another. I care about whether or not the arguments they make are sound and backed by evidence.
Listen to my exchange when I asked student Alex Wynn to respond to a hypothetical NRA argument.
I'm not going to, quote, let them come for my guns. You say what?
We're not coming for your guns.
This is a beautiful talking point, but one that the facts do not bear out. Leftists always say, we don't want to take your guns in one breath, and then in the next breath they're talking about how wonderful the gun confiscation in Australia was. So which is it? You either support law-abiding citizens owning and carrying guns, or you don't.
That's the biggest thing, is that it is okay if you own a gun. David and Cameron, both of their households, their fathers own guns. It's not an issue of owning a gun for protection, because I understand a lot of people feel that they need, that they have the need to be protected, that they feel that they need to be protected, especially if, you know, you feel that you're not in a, quote, safe neighborhood. Because at the end of the day, this country was built on the foundation of we have the right to bear arms.
It absolutely was. In fact, the right to bear arms is ultimately to allow us to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. So what exactly is your solution?
And we're not saying we don't have the right to bear arms, but what we're saying is that when you put an AR-15, which is a weapon of war in the hands of a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old or any civilian for that matter without any training, that's a weapon that's sole purpose is for killing people. It's not for protection, it's not for hunting, it's for killing people.
100% false, kid. What makes you think that no one who owns an AR-15 has had any training? Approximately half of the owners of this gun are either former or current law enforcement or military. Besides that, the AR-15 is one of the easiest guns to learn how to shoot accurately, which is why it's a better choice for Americans who don't have extensive experience in the use of firearms. Second, the AR-15 is no more powerful than hunting rifles of equivalent caliber. There are numerous semi-automatic weapons more powerful for sale in gun stores everywhere. The only thing that makes people call the AR-15 an assault rifle is cosmetics. AR does not stand for assault rifle, it stands for Armalite. The fact that it looks similar to an M16 is the only reason people call it an assault rifle. Third, the AR-15 can absolutely be used for both hunting and target shooting. Everything from rodents to big game. Fourth, its sole purpose is not to kill. The primary purpose of any gun is to deter violence. Sure, the gun can be used to kill if absolutely necessary, but if its only purpose is to kill, then why are it and similar weapons being carried by the police and military? Cops and soldiers don't want to kill people if they don't have to, but seeing an armed presence gives criminals and enemy combatants pause about whether or not they can succeed. In fact, it was an AR-15 that was used by a law-abiding citizen to confront the Texas church shooters several months ago. Fifth, the AR-15 is only used in a fraction of crimes involving guns. So how exactly will banning the AR-15 reduce gun violence? Did you do any research?
These young people are pleading with the president, with elected leaders, with anyone who can make a difference, pleading to act in the name of safety, reason, and rationality. They know correctly that polling shows a majority of the country believes in common sense gun laws.
Yes, but this tells us nothing. I believe in common sense gun laws, if what you mean is that the law should make it easy for law-abiding citizens to carry firearms for their own protection. But since criminals break the law anyways, the only people the measures being proposed will stop are law-abiding citizens, and so the laws demonstrate anything but common sense.
And they insist that they will make their voices heard in the streets and at the ballot box. We shall see what happens, but I personally would not bet against them.
Yeah, let me make a prediction of what will happen if these gun control advocates get their way. After the AR-15 is banned, mass shootings will still occur, making everyone wonder why, since the ban was supposed to put an end to them. Well, we didn't go far enough, they'll say. We need to ban all semi-automatic guns, which will ban almost all firearms in the United States. After mass shootings mysteriously continue to happen, they'll finally say, all right, we've had enough. We need to ban firearms altogether. At which point, the government will have a complete monopoly on guns, and law-abiding citizens will have no means to protect themselves from tyranny. That's the insidious nature of totalitarians. They know that if they take away all your freedoms outright, the people will fight back. So they work slowly. They say things like, we don't want to take your guns, we just want to institute common sense gun controls, such as banning assault weapons. Even though the term assault weapon is totally made up, and no one on the left can ever coherently define it other than looks dangerous. Then after they've succeeded, they wait a little while longer until everyone has forgotten what they've already banned, and then they take it just a little bit further. It happens slowly so that by the time people finally wake up and realize what's going on, it's too late. Their freedoms are gone and they have no means to protect themselves from a tyrannical government. Wake up, America. The Founding Fathers are rolling in their graves. They gave their lives to try and build a society free of tyranny, and it's slipping away more and more every passing day. You want to stop gun violence? Put more guns into the hands of law-abiding citizens. And that is my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth.
I'm Dan Rather, and I approve this message. Kind of. Sort of. Not really.
Thanks everyone for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe. You can also hit the bell to ensure you're notified every time I upload a new video. This video was made possible by my patrons. If anyone else would like to donate and help ensure that I have the time and resources to keep putting out content, for just $1 a month on Patreon or Maker Support, you'll receive your name listed in the end credits and the link to one of your social media platforms listed in the description. You can also support the channel by purchasing my 2 cents merchandise or checking out my Amazon affiliate links. To follow me on Twitter, Minds.com, BitChute, WordPress, Gab, or iTunes, check out the links in the description. Uploads are every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so stay tuned for more videos.